Mike Aresco. Mike, thank you for joining us. We just get your general thoughts as we head into our first tournament down in Fort Worth, please.
Thank you, Chuck, and let me know if anyone can't hear me for whatever reason. First of all, we're obviously delighted to be going to Fort Worth. It's an incomparable arena at Dickies, and the people there have been terrific. I will talk briefly about the coronavirus situation. Obviously, I'm sure that's on everyone's mind. But in terms of the tournament itself and the league itself, we have had another excellent regular season. We are a dynamic conference. We're part of the Major 7 of college basketball with great pedigree in our programs, and we have been a multi-bid conference now since we've been created. And on several occasions we've had four bids. This year, I think we've been, and I think this has been true in the past too, we've been an underrated league, and the CBS commentators talked a little about that yesterday in the Houston-Memphis game. I think the league is underrated. I think we've got a lot of talented teams that play hard. We've got a lot of young players. When you watch the SMU-Houston overtime game, you realize that combined, there's only one senior on those rosters. And that shows you that we're a young team. This is a transitional year for us. We had more veteran teams last year with Houston and UCF and Cincinnati. Wichita State has come back into the mix, as you know, after having essentially a rebuilding year last year. We're obviously hoping that this year our goal is obviously to get 3 bids and possibly 4. We've been fighting injuries. DJ Jeffries of Memphis, who was the second leading scorer for Memphis, has been hurt and has not played since. Midway through conference play, that happened. Alexis Yetna of USF, he was potentially their best player and one of the best post players in the league, and he was hurt before the season started. Definitely had an impact on their team, and of course, obviously, James Wiseman not playing for Memphis has had a huge impact on their team as well. Even though Penny Hardaway's done an outstanding job, and they still managed to win 20 games. We had a situation with Emmanuel Mudiay several years ago where we had one of the top players in the entire country who ultimately opted not to compete, and so consequently that was a big blow. But we're working to overcome it. Again, as I mentioned, we have a terrific venue in Fort Worth, and I think anyone who attends is going to be incredibly impressed with it. I got a tour of it recently. It's a terrific place. They've just done everything right. It's a beautiful, brand new arena, and people are going to love being there. Our teams, our coaches, our fans, everyone. As I said, this has been a very, very competitive regular season. It's been an exciting regular season. As it turns out, we have tri-champions in Cincinnati, Houston, and Tulsa. Cincinnati with the tiebreaker is our number 1 seed, Houston 2, and Tulsa 3. But we had an incredible season. Over 25% of our games were decided by either one possession or went to overtime. That's the highest percentage of any major conference. We've had 8 games decided by a single point, and we had 2 this weekend that affected tournament seeding. We have had some spectacular games all year long, and they just have been incredibly competitive, and that's what I expect from this league. The depth is the best I've seen, and that's the biggest issue for us. The depth of the league, top to bottom, has been the best. It's been strong. When you have coaches like we do now, it's the best group of coaches we've ever had. I don't think there's any question about it. And when you've got Greg Marshall, Kelvin Sampson, and Kelvin is really essentially the dean of our coaches now, Ron Hunter, Frank Haith has done a great job. Johnny Dawkins, Tim Jankovic, John Brannon, just took over at Cincinnati, and he's got that program rolling in his image. Joe Dooley's done a great job, at ECU. Not an easy place to win. Dan Hurley bringing UConn along, even though they won't be in the league next year. We wish them well, and Dan has done a great job with that program. Brian Gregory, Aaron McKee at Temple, Brian Gregory at USF, Penny Hardaway. It speaks for itself, the job Penny's done, considering the hardship that they had to deal with during the season. We've 10 of our coaches have been coached in the NCAA tournament, and 2 have had outstanding NBA careers, starting their head coaching journeys. You see what Kelvin's done at Houston, and that is no surprise to any of us. And as the announcers, CBS announcers, and we were thrilled to have Jim Nance, Bill Raftery, Grant Hill do the game, Tracy Wolfson on the side court. As they pointed out, they are going to be a tough out in the tournament. And, somebody said they rebounded like a pack of wolves. That was another commentator at one point. And the job Frank Haith did at Tulsa, they were picked to finish 10th in our league, and he deserves kudos for the job he did. And Greg Marshall has gotten Wichita State back, and they've rebounded. And I don't want to leave out other coaches, but just to name a few that have had obviously important seasons. And again, our thoughts are with John Brannon and his family, and again, he may be able to join later. But again, in summing up, this is a conference that's on the move. This is a conference that is going to be a major player. It already is, but it's really going to be even a more significant player in college basketball as we move forward. We've got all the great coaches in place. We have what we need. We've got the resources. We've got a young league. This is a transitional year, as I mentioned. Our teams are all going to get better. And, you have Ron Hunter now at Tulane, and they barely won a game last year. And look what they've done this year. And look how competitive, Joe Dooley has made, ECU. And obviously Johnny Dawkins had to rebuild his program. As you know, they almost upset Duke last year, had a tremendous veteran team. Brian Gregory, again, without the injuries, I'm not sure they wouldn't have been right there, and they'll be a very tough out in this tournament. And if you look at around the league, SMU's got its scholarships back, and that's great to know. And again, everybody else is on the upswing. Aaron McKee, again, like John Brannon, taking over a program. Give them some time, and they're going to be very, very competitive. They already are. People forget they almost beat Maryland earlier in the season. Temple did. So again, the future is very bright, and we're excited. And again, we think that going forward, we're going to continue to be a multi-bid league. But I'm hoping, obviously, I don't want to jinx anything, but down the road, I'm hoping that we can send half our teams to the NCAA tournament, or have half or even more in contention for the NCAA tournament. Seriously on the bubble, or clearly in future years. I'm hoping that that's what we can accomplish with this conference, and I'm not sure we can. So again, in terms of the, and I'll answer any questions you might have, but in terms of the coronavirus situation, again, right now everything is a go in Fort Worth. We have open lines of communication with the appropriate local and state, public health officials at not only Fort Worth, but the sites of our other conference championships. It's going to be, as you know, a busy conference championship season. We're going to work closely with them to monitor the situation, and we'll determine what we need to do as the situation requires. We've also been in touch with the NCAA on these issues, and we've reached out to our member institutions as well, and we've discussed with them what action plans they may have. We're also taking reasonable health-related precautions at our championships, providing additional alcohol-based hand sanitizer stations in team and fan areas, for example. There are cleaning protocols at various sites. We're not medical people, we're not doctors, but we are taking our advice from the CDC and from, obviously, local health authorities. We're placing CDC, Center for Disease Control, information regarding coronavirus in the team and fan areas at our championship arenas and sites, and providing them information in team informational packets. We will be, as we should be, on alert for student athletes, team party, or staff members who exhibit any coronavirus or flu-like symptoms. We'll obviously have them seek immediate medical attention and instruction, and limit exposure to others. These are the basic precautions that I think around the country you're going to see conferences and leagues taking. And again, we're hoping that we don't have any disruption, but if we do, we'll have alternate plans, and we'll keep everyone posted. But the key right now is to, we're not trying to induce, certainly any panic, but we understand that this is a serious situation. The other thing we have done, in view of these concerns, we've eliminated our requirement of pre- and post-game handshakes between teams for the regular season and conference championships for men's and women's basketball. And the teams are encouraged to determine what their procedures are. And people shake hands. Again, they may do that, but we've eliminated that as one. It's one of the traditions. And again, down the road, we'll obviously be able to bring it back. But we're confident that everybody will understand what we're trying to accomplish. So that's my summation. And if there are any questions before we get to our coaches, which are really, they're the main event, and they're the people that I think you're interested in talking to, I would be willing to certainly answer any questions. Chuck, thank you.
Sure. We'll take questions for Commissioner Aresco. Please hit *1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue, and then the operator will introduce you. Go right ahead with the first question, please. Okay.
Thank you. Our first question will come from Sam Bloom with Dallas Morning News.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Hi, Sam.
I'm curious. You talked about having contingency plans. Have those contingency plans been kind of fleshed out? I mean, have you guys figured out what those would be? I know there are other events kind of around the country that seem to be getting postponed, getting canceled. Do you feel like there's a chance that this might be getting closer to that as it leads up to the tournament?
Well, no, we don't know that yet, Sam. We talked to the people in Fort Worth, and Matt Homan, the general manager of the site, been in close touch with all the authorities. And right now, again, we're going by CDC with the risk is low. We haven't had the kind of cluster or outbreak that could potentially put the event in some jeopardy. But we right now have we've obviously talked about contingency plans. Obviously, the NCAA has as well the possibility that you could have the event without fans or not have the event. But right now that is not what we anticipate, and we'll have to wait and see. But obviously with the NCAA tournament, you can't postpone an event in that sense, unless the NCAA were to postpone its event. We don't necessarily see that happening. But we're looking at all the various contingencies that could come into play.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Jason Munz with the Commercial Appeal.
Hey, Mike. I wanted to I just wanted to, see if you had any thoughts on. Obviously, you can't talk specifics about Memphis and their infractions case, but I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on the new process, the fact that it's they're sort of venturing into uncharted territory with the independent accountability resolution process.
Well, yeah, it's risky, but you just don't know. There's no appeal, Jason, and that's one of the concerns you certainly have. But I think Memphis weighed it and thought that in the end they could get the fairest and the most complete hearing. I know there has been some, it's been a tough go back and forth, with the NCAA on this, but we think that this independent, tribunal, if you will, could ultimately, work to their benefit in the sense that it's, you've got people take a fresh look at this. Again, you just don't know. There's some risks involved, but the people at Memphis have weighed those risks, and again, the biggest, of course, is that there's no appeal, and you're the first one to do this, and so consequently, it's dicey. But we hope. Again, I don't want to comment, but we're obviously hoping that ultimately, this works out, for Memphis. Obviously, it's one of our institutions. But I'm not going to get into the specifics. That would be a mistake.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Joseph Doherty with Houston Chronicle.
Good morning, Mike.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, I just wanted to double check and just clarify the. I don't know if you deem it as instructions, but on the post and pregame exchanges, are you saying that's up to the schools in terms of whether they want to continue to do it, or are you specifically asking that that's one of the measures in place that you prefer that they not do?
Yeah, we've eliminated the requirement of it because it's been something that's been a traditional thing, and we've suggested that they not do it. But again, if they do it, there are no sanctions or anything if they do it. But we think that ultimately that is one of the protocols that CDC has been talking about that could help this whole situation. So. And you could argue, look, the players are, there's a lot of interaction during the game, the whole thing. It's but it's just something we thought was a precaution that, frankly, we should take. And it does disrupt a longstanding, tradition in our conference. But we think at this point we should be doing everything we can. But again, the hand washing and cleaning and using the sanitizer is of the utmost importance, regardless of what people are doing, and that's something we've been stressing too, and that's why we've made sure that we're going to have stations more than we normally would have in team and fan areas, and that's, I think, really important also.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
You take one more for Commissioner Aresco, please.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Trace Trico with the Nightline Sports Network.
Commissioner, with UConn leaving the league, what changes are you looking at to the format of the basketball tournament for next season?
Well, we're gonna have to take a look at that. I'll sit down, with our basketball people, and we'll go through it. At this point, obviously. We're not going to have UConn with us, and whether we add a 12th team, it wouldn't be in 2021 at this point. So we will have to make some changes, and again, it'll be tweaked. I think the basic structure will be similar, but obviously we're gonna go with 11 at this point, and then we'll go back to what we did when we had 11 teams. The bracket will look very similar to when we did. Remember, we played with 11 teams for a good part of our history, and the bracket will look very similar. I don't know that we'll make a change from what it looked like when we had 11 teams, but we'll study it and get back clearly.
All right, Mike, thanks so much for your time today, and I know you look forward to seeing everybody in Fort Worth, and we'll look forward to catching up with you there.
We really do, and we hope everything obviously goes well. We wish everyone safe travel and everyone stay healthy, and we'll look forward to a great event. I think it will be a great event, and look forward to tremendous competition. There's a lot at stake for our conference, and teams. It's going to be very intense, and as you know, most of our league has a shot. I think the whole league has a shot to go very far and to win that tournament. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing people there. Thank you.